Well, again, good afternoon, gentlemen. I appreciate y'all taking the time to join us on this discussion today. Brief introduction for myself. I know half the panelists on here and don't know that I've met the other half. My name is Doug Lawyer. I'm the Vice President of Economic Development here at the Knoxville Chamber. And our team here on the economic development side is really focused on two main things. So first, is business expansion. So we work really closely with existing businesses throughout Knoxville and Knox County and try and facilitate a couple things. We like to facilitate growth opportunities. We like to facilitate, and when I say growth, I'm talking capital investment or job creation opportunities. And we like to facilitate connectivity. We find that the companies in Knoxville, y'all get so busy kind of in your wheelhouse focusing on what you're doing that sometimes maybe you don't know there's a neighbor down the street or another company that might be of benefit to connect you to. So we spend a lot of time and energy and trying to work with our existing businesses. And then the other side of the shop is on the business attraction side. So we lead the efforts for the city and county to recruit new business and industry to the Knox County area as well. So, and that can be any size business. We're not just chasing 500 or 1,000 job opportunities, although those are fun and we get those from time to time. But any company that doesn't have an operation in our area that's looking at expansion or total relocation, we like to chase those types of projects. So that's a little bit about me. I've been doing economic development for a long time here and looking forward to today's discussion. So with that, why don't we go around just real quick and we'll do brief introductions. So in case you guys haven't met each other before, just name and a little bit about yourself and the company you work for. And Bob Grimes, you're the first one on the right on my screen. So I'll kick off with you.
Okay, my name is Bob Grimes. I'm the Vice President of Sales at Fraley and Schilling. We're a transportation and logistics company with a base here in Knoxville. We run about 200 trucks out of this terminal and headquartered in Indiana.
Very good, Bob. Thanks for being here. And Bob is getting ready to cut the ribbon on a new office facility that they've just completed construction on out at Strawberry Plains. So an additional 12,000 square feet, if I recall, of new space and a bunch of new jobs coming to the Knoxville market. So thanks for what you guys are doing, Bob. Joe, how about you?
Yeah, Joe Michalik with R&S Logistics. I'm the COO, and we mainly focus on warehousing and distribution, although we do have a small fleet of trucks and do a little bit of brokerage as well.
Very good. Welcome to the conversation, Joe. Jeff Price.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Doug. I'm Jeff Price. I'm a Vice President with Cubic Transportation Systems and the General Manager of their ITS business. That business includes components here in Knoxville and in Sugar Land, Texas. Cubic's headquartered in San Diego. Came into the business of Cubic when they acquired a startup out of Knoxville called GridSmart, where I was the CTO.
Very good. Appreciate you being here. And last but certainly not least, Jake.
Thanks, Doug. I'm Jake Weir. I'm the Industrial Development Manager with Norfolk Southern Railroad, and I cover Tennessee and Kentucky. We primarily work with customers that are looking for a location that they can build a facility, or if they're expanding an existing rail serve facility. I'm the point person for that and based here in Knoxville.
Very good. So we have, I think, a really interesting mix of company types here, from a Class 1 railroad to a trucking company to a warehouse distribution company to a transportation systems technology company. So I think we're going to have an interesting dialogue here today. So I'll kick off just kind of setting the table for this roundtable discussion. So the Chamber, we have a 5-year strategic plan, which we call the Path to Prosperity, which really is, no matter where you are as a business, what we call the business ecosystem, whether you're a startup company, you're somebody with an idea for a company, you're an existing business, we have programs and services at the Chamber to help support those job growth and capital investment opportunities. And as a community, we kind of step back when we developed this strategic plan about 2 years ago now, and said, we really need to kind of refine the types of companies we want to grow here and attract here if they're not here. And so there were 5 different kind of what we call our strategic platforms: communication companies, health companies, power companies, security companies, and then movement, which is the kind of the catch-all for all things of moving products or people or systems in and out of our ecosystem. So that's what we're focusing on here today is the movement roundtable, and I think you all will bring an interesting perspective. So I'm going to kind of moderate and ask a series of questions, and I may point a question to an individual, but feel free if I don't point to you and ask for your comment on it to just chime in.
From the industry that I work in, first, to kind of give a little bit of perspective, what we do is we manage signalized intersections. So we create products, traffic signal controllers and software to change the lights more optimally, and we create a computer vision product to detect and count the cars, so you can use that data to improve how traffic flows. So from that perspective, of the industry that I have, one of the things that's interesting in this area is working with National Transportation Research Center, or there's also something called the Traffic Signal Academy that's run by a professor from UT named Ayrton Coles. As far as our industry, there's not a ton of that in this region, but there's a ton of my industry stuff used in the region, right? Not just from Cubic, but from our competitors, right? So anytime you're driving down a road and you come to a traffic signal, right? Somebody's supplying the traffic signal controller. And if you're sitting at a traffic signal and there's no cars coming the other way, that usually means the detection's not working. So that's something once you learn, it starts to frustrate you. It's how this business got started. So really what you're going to see, and I think it's not just this region, but the nation, right, with the infrastructure bill, it's going to be a lot of investment in how to make roadways more efficient. What you'll see from that is the application of more advanced technology. So what you may not know is that the most common way to detect cars at an intersection is inductive loops. It's maybe 50 years old. It's a wire in the pavement that detects metal. So you'll start to see some pivoting away from that, because once you move to advanced detection technology, you can classify vehicles and people. So maybe you want bikes to have priority, or maybe at a certain time of day, you want delivery trucks to have prioritization through the signal. So those are the kind of things I think you're going to see, in the future. But and hopefully try to answer the question a little bit informally. So
that's great perspective. Thanks, Jeff. Bob, from a trucking company, what's when your drivers are coming in and out of Knoxville, what are they saying about our region's infrastructure?
Well, I will tell you that moving in and out of Knoxville, just as far as the infrastructure goes, I think it's a challenge. If you look to our neighbors to the north and south, I think both Kentucky and Georgia have done pretty good jobs of with expansion on I-75. But as you come down the 75 corridor out of Jellicoe and begin to move south into Knoxville, we've got a pretty big bottleneck there, a lot of traffic congestion. And then once you get below Watt Road traveling 75 south, we start to see a lot of the same things with essentially with I-75 just being 2 lanes all the way down to almost Chattanooga. So that's a typical driver perspective there as far as the infrastructure for Knoxville goes. As far as Knoxville proper and what we're doing in the market here, I mean, I've not heard any complaints with drivers with the ability to park. Truck stops around the periphery of both on east and west sides of Knoxville. So I think it's good. I think traffic is the biggest problem, though.
That's great perspective. Our neighbors to the north and south of us kind of getting ahead of the game a little bit. And I know that's something that the chamber has an infrastructure council. That's one of the things that council is chewing on in partnership with the TDOTs and the TPOs and other partners that can help move those types of projects forward. So appreciate that, Bob. Anybody else, Jake or Joe, have any kind of big picture thoughts on the state of the movement logistics sector here in the Knoxville region?
Yeah, I think the only other thing I would add is I agree with what Robert just said, and also a lot of cities you travel around the country, they have the bands or the circles around. Knoxville doesn't really have a true bypass loop or even one outside of that. And I'm not saying that will solve all the issues, but something else. You have dug a great job, because Knoxville is strategically positioned with 75, 81, and 40. And so the more companies that take notice, you're always seeing Smith & Wesson and Amazon coming here, which will create more traffic, more flow. So it's not going away. It is very busy. So just the more, like what Robert said, that looking at other cities, what they've done, even maybe times of day, restricting certain flow to the inner city. I think last mile delivery is an issue as well. So it's great problems, but great opportunities as well, what I see for Knoxville and all these areas.
Yeah, from a rail standpoint, I mean, we have good coverage in this area with our main line that connects Chattanooga to Bristol, running right through downtown Knoxville. So, and we have our yard, Severe Yard, which is where my office is right outside of Knoxville. So we've got a good footprint in this area. The challenge for us is running through downtown and some of the outskirt areas. There's a lot of residential. It's kind of built up along our main line. So obviously any projects that help make those intersections between road and rail safer and improve those access points, that's always a priority. And then from the industrial development standpoint, when we're looking for locations that a new customer could locate, that's becoming more and more challenging as the area around the main line is built up. It's obviously not easy to build new tracks, so we're kind of confined with what we have. So that's where we're starting to have to look a little bit further out. The Knoxville region continues to see a lot of interest from our customer base and folks that we work with. So there is a lot of attention on this area, a lot of interest in this area. It's just trying to find a location that has the opportunity for that customer to build a facility or add the track infrastructure they need.
Yeah, and to kind of add on a little bit to Jake's point there, we're seeing a lot of companies talking about interest in the Knoxville region. And Joe, you mentioned Smith & Wesson and Amazon. We're seeing a lot of companies that might have started looking at Tennessee. And when you're outside the Southeast, Tennessee is Nashville. And so many projects have come to Nashville there we've all been over there. You've seen the traffic, you've seen the growth and all the cranes in the skyline, but it's getting crowded and it's getting congested. And those companies now are starting to look, okay, Tennessee, what's right down the road? Well, there's a little place called Knoxville. So we're getting a lot of looks just by proximity, certainly to the interstates, certainly to all the metros. It's easily accessible by here. So yeah, it's if logistics has something to do with the company, we're most likely going to be getting a pretty decent opportunity to swing the bat at the project. So.
Yeah, I'll jump in on that one. From my perspective, again, it's a little different, being on the railroad side of things. But, what I encourage everybody, all the communities we serve, the regions we serve, is just being proactive with planning. It's very easy to, sometimes let things kind of slip by. And, before you know it, there's a lot of development up against these rail served corridors where it prohibits future growth. So, my message to everyone that we work with is just be proactive in that planning and, identify those areas that could be rail served and, to the best of your ability, protect that for future development. And, taking it a step further, what would it take to get rail into that area, develop a site, having those types of questions answered ahead of time, which requires the dialogue to be started with your utility providers, your rail provider, all the stakeholders early on. And what we've seen is, a lot of the consultants are not always looking for the best site anymore. A lot of times it's just the site that can be developed the quickest. So, having a lot of these conversations early on, identify where those strong areas where you've got good road access, you've got rail access, you've got some amount of developable land and utilities, working on those ahead of time before that project comes knocking on the door. To me, that's key. And I think that's probably all I've got to share on that one. But
it's key, and it's long-term when you're talking land development opportunities. I mean, if you look at Knox County's newest business park that we cut the ribbon on back in April of this year, that was literally a 15-year development in the making at exit 402 on I-40. So now we're actively looking for companies to either expand or locate in that property. But yeah, these things take time and take a lot of resources. So any other thoughts on key things that the region should be thinking about?
Well, I think one of the things that we need to keep on the forefront, especially from a trucking perspective, the driver availability. I guess driver availability continues to be a challenge for the trucking industry, and with Congress, working hard to legislate the Drive Safe Act. If everything passes through and this gets implemented, be able to integrate 18 to 20-year-olds into the driver pool is going to present a series of challenges for trucking companies, truck driving schools, with how we create training programs that meet the federal guidelines that help the younger drivers assimilate into the workforce. I know as I talk through it, I can find myself on both sides of the fence of the argument. You have the American Trucking Association that believes that we send 18 to 20-year-olds overseas to fight on behalf of the nation. So why can't we allow them to drive interstate in a commercial motor vehicle? You can see that argument, but I also go back to my own experiences as an 18 to 20-year-old young man. And did I have the confidence or the maturity to handle a 80,000 pound rig and working in that environment? Not very closely managed at all. So again, I could find myself on both sides of the fence, but I think at some point, the government sees that as an answer to some of the challenges that we have to the driver capacity problem that we've got right now. So I think it's coming. We just want to try to be prepared for it.
Absolutely. I think the career awareness piece and, working with the, kids starting even down in the middle school ages, letting them know the career opportunities that various jobs have within our community and the demand for that. So you can drive a truck and make a very, very, very good living with quite a bit of flexibility. So those are important. So I want to kind of talk about workforce a little bit deeper. And, and we've talked about driver shortage and maybe lowering the age. But, and Joe, this one's for you. From a logistics distribution warehouse perspective, what are there key workforce challenges that your industry is facing in the Knoxville area? Or let's talk about what you're seeing from your radar.
Yeah, sure. I think I would say education. I would say our customers and our competitors are being asked to create more value, more efficiency, as opposed to just being an outsourced distribution center, someplace to put their product and ship it to their customers whenever they want. Now, how do you, Joe, at RNS, how are you being an expert? How can you help me create efficiencies, save money, be safer, and more green, saving the environment? That pressure is coming down to us, and so, which is a great opportunity again. So how does that infiltrate all the way down to the lowest level on the floor when a picker and packer is walking to and from a rack, taking a box, taking it back to the door, packaging it, putting on a truck to ship out? How are we saying, we've done this same way for 2 or 3 years, how can we cut out steps? How can we maybe look at running electric lifts as opposed to propane? So we've taken the approach of trying to get those ideas from the ground up, also bringing in outside consultants to help us rethink the way we operate. But I guess the challenge I'm trying to hit on is it's no longer a service that's outsourced, but you better come with ideas, you better come with strategies and changes to show value. And so finding that comes all the way back to education, finding someone who not only can operate a forklift, but think strategically. And that's kind of on us to train them or get them to think in that way and look out for the customer. Because if we're not, we're competing against robots, right? I know we'll get to that later on, but if we're not continually pushing the envelope there, someone else will come up with that idea and pass us up. So education's big.
Absolutely. And Jeff, from a technology standpoint, are there key challenges that you're seeing in the Knoxville region? And on the other side of that, on the positive, what are the key opportunities to hire technology talent in this marketplace?
Sure. Yeah. So definitely, as a technology business, we in Knoxville, most of the people working in Knoxville are engineering. We have an assembly, and we have some finance and accounting and marketing. But from workforce development, in the transportation logistics in the industry that I'm in, which calls itself ITS for Intelligent Transportation Systems, you're seeing engineering degrees, whether it's civil engineering, lots of opportunities for computer scientists now. Because everything is data driven, like logistics is data driven. Optimizing traffic flow through urban grids is a data problem. So the interesting thing about Knoxville is, right, you have University of Tennessee, Oak Ridge National Lab. So you have and quite a few large businesses that employ a lot of software developers. So software engineering, computer science, civil engineering, transportation engineering, those are sort of hot commodities in the space. And I think, it's not just Knoxville, but all over the United States, it's quite an active industry. And you see a lot of things changing rapidly. So we're talking about electrification, of course, right? But as we talk about logistics in the last mile, some of the technologies that we work on, for example, adaptive traffic signal control. Most adaptive means the traffic signal itself changes in real time to traffic demands that are present and or predicted from other places. So when you start to work in conjunction with a logistics company, for example, so where maybe they're using route sharing, you can actually adapt you can tell them the right speed so that they don't have to stop, that they can go through green lights. And perhaps if that's an electric vehicle, right, maybe you can use regenerative braking, as sort of a continual feedback loop. So all of those things are, definitely high technology, and the Knoxville area is nice for that, just from the number of industries and the number of high tech opportunities.
And we want to see those high tech opportunities continue to grow here, because they typically are paying above our average wages, and that's how you move the needle in economic development, is you grow those jobs that are higher paying. So we appreciate that standpoint. And even you mentioned software developers. There is a high demand for software developers and data analysts in the Knoxville area. And one of the things the chamber is doing from the talent attraction side is we're actually talking to markets around the country that we know there's a higher density of software developers or data analysts in this metro area. So we'll do some specific outreach and some specific targeted marketing in that area to kind of wave the flag about Knoxville as a great place to live and work, and lots of great job opportunities here.
Yeah, and a lot better cost of living than a lot of markets that we're trying to recruit software developers from. So
yeah, and 4 distinct seasons and the Smoky Mountains in your backyard, and the list goes on and on. So very good. Any other, from the rail standpoint, Jake, any workforce challenges you guys are experiencing, or how you're kind of tackling that issue?
Yeah, I think it's a challenge for everybody. That's the number one thing you hear from anybody is just workforce concerns. But our business is dynamic. It kind of ebbs and flows, and our staffing is tied to that. So it's not something that you can just hire somebody off the street and put them on a train right away. There's a training process to that. So it takes some time to get somebody trained to be a conductor, or any of those positions. It just takes time. So in certain markets, we're certainly on hiring sprees looking for trained and engine personnel. That's our biggest area right now that we need folks. So that certain markets we're definitely hiring, and it varies by location, but certainly something that our folks are focused on, and making sure we're staffed appropriately to handle the volume that we continue to see increasing.
Workforce definitely top of conversation, and I think the word workforce is uttered at the chamber about 327,000 times a day. So it comes up very often and is definitely front of mind.
Okay, I'll start off by saying that the Schilling family has been fairly enamored with electric vehicles. I believe over half the family owns Tesla, so obviously the mindset is there. As far as electric trucks, we're certainly open to that. We had employed CG trucks at our Rushville terminal for some of our local routes. So obviously, always trying to think greener. But the one thing that we keep coming back to is the capital investment. At that point, it'll become a blended fleet. So the capital investment, not only with the equipment, but the required infrastructure to support the electric trucks, not just from the country standpoint, to be able to fuel on the road or to recharge on the road, but at our terminals, make sure we've got enough charging stations, things like that. So we're starting to explore those things to be able to have an answer, because customers are starting to ask those questions when we said in meetings, what kind of sustainability initiative do you have as a trucking company? And I got to tell you, for most of us that's been in this industry for 20 plus years, that's not a question that we're accustomed to fielding, but we're starting to educate ourselves quite a bit and trying to get up to speed as quickly as we can.
Yeah. Customers are demanding it, and we a lot of discussions about the impact on a company's carbon footprint, and what kind of facilities, location, how can that impact that, from the power grid down to their actual facility, down to their fleet. So Joe, from your standpoint, has electrification come across your radar all at RNS?
Yes, it has. As I mentioned, we've moved majority of our forklift fleet to electric units, and seen a great savings there. Our trucks, we have a small fleet, so we've not experienced it there. But to Bob's point, our customers are asking us, how green are we? What initiatives do we have? And we got the ISO 14001 certification, which is environmental certification. And so we have to show that we have decreased our electric use every year. Let's see what else. Our recycling, we have to verify how much waste that we have saved from going into the landfill. We have to weigh it. And so we're doing things like that to share those savings on with our customers, because they want to know if they're going to partner with us, that we share their same values that they do with the environment.
Very good. Jeff or Jake, anything from your industry sector as it relates to electrification, kind of looking down the road a little while?
Sure. Yeah. From the intelligent transportation systems industry, electrification is a pretty big deal. A lot. I'm not sure if you're aware, but the Highway Trust Fund, which funds lots of road works in the United States, is paid for by a gas tax. And so as the fleet electrifies, right, you have an issue. The gas tax was great because it was like a 1-for-1 usage of the roads and taxing. So you'll hear there's lots of discussions about how to manage that. Whether they call it road user charging for mileage based, if they want to do that with GPS, or if they want to do that by odometer readings. So there's tons of discussion on how we replenish the Highway Trust Fund without a gas tax as we move to electrification. And then there's tons of activity on where to put the electric charging infrastructure. How do you manage that? If you assume a mix of electric vehicles on the road, How does that change how you control traffic? Is there a better way to do it? So definitely a huge impact in the ITS space.
Very good.
Yeah, from the rail standpoint, I think there's actually two answers to that question. First and foremost, internally, sustainability is a huge focus for NS, and we're very proud of the accomplishments we've made on that. I mean, it's now a conversation we have in the initial conversations with prospective customers. What does sustainability look like within Norfolk Southern? So, we're working on our carbon abatement program that we can share with customers. There's a lot of things that we are working on that front, which includes, looking at different locomotive types and improving that fleet, making them more fuel efficient. We have our science-based target that we're going to hit by 2034. So all of that is factored into what we're doing as a company. And locomotives are already, trains as a whole are a fuel efficient way of moving freight anyway. So we continue to build on that momentum and improve the efficiency to reach our targets. But that is a huge topic with us and our customers to show how we add value in that supply chain and reduce carbon emissions. The other piece you mentioned on the battery production and all of the support industry that's coming along with EV manufacturing, and that is something that we're monitoring very closely. We're working, leveraging our relationships with the automotive manufacturers, the suppliers, and trying to figure out how we fit in that supply chain and how we can benefit, in that and help them out. So it's something that is evolving. It's obviously new. We're trying to figure it out, but there is a lot of opportunity for us to help move freight to support that industry. So we're definitely excited to see what's coming.
All right. Well, as you alluded to earlier, Doug, we just completed the expansion of our Knoxville campus by adding the new office building here, approximately 12,000 square feet. That's going to house our operations, our logistics group, our recruiting, and our sales teams. We also have a human resources presence here as well, with our director of human resources being here. We're taking the other facility that we were previously in, which houses our shop. That's going to be transformed to accommodate all of our orientation activities, as well as housing our safety department. This will all make Knoxville our largest terminal in our network, not only by driver count, but by support personnel as well. And then we recently purchased property in Lexington, North Carolina, which puts us in closer proximity to one of our top customers, which is Michelin. And we'll begin development of that property in 2022. So that's the big things for us right now.
That's good stuff. And congratulations on the continued growth of your company. It's been fun to watch the project evolve in Knoxville over the past couple of years since we first connected on it. So it's been a pleasure working with you. Joe, what about R&S Logistics? What's the next big thing for you guys?
Well, we're implementing new technology that can integrate with our customers real time. So when someone goes on Amazon or on their website and orders something, that when it's shipped and scanned on our dock, it updates their system right away. So better technology, better integration, also more electronic retrievers. So instead of having maybe 15 people going up and down an aisle, you have a robot right next to a picker. So they're putting it in the robot's taking it to the door. We're going to be experimenting with that. Also expanding as well. And a lot of our customers bring stuff through Savannah and Charleston. And we have a warehouse in Savannah, but looking to expand that. It's become more of a cross dock. So we containers are so hard to come by now. We cross dock it onto a 53-foot, ship it up to Knoxville, to one of our warehouses here. So finding more space in Savannah, Charleston, the port areas. And also here in East Tennessee, we're expanding in Morristown and Loudoun County, kind of all around the band around Knoxville. But when our main warehouse is downtown Knoxville. So still expanding, growing where we can find space. Industrial space is harder to come by, but it's out there. And so are some older buildings that we're renovating and bringing back online, some brownfields. So excited about those opportunities.
Yeah, and congratulations on that expansions into the markets surrounding Knoxville. That's good, and I've had the pleasure to be in some of your facilities here in downtown Knoxville. So it's good to see. Good to see. Jeff, what about you at Cubic? What's coming down the pike?
So, my capacity to speak on behalf of Cubic is a little lighter right now. Cubic was acquired by private equity back in May. So I can speak on behalf of my business segment, of course. And, our goal is expanding our reach, in North America. So Grid Smart, which came out of Knoxville, is in over 10,000 intersections, primarily North America, US, and Canada. Weir, which Cubic makes in Texas, is in about another, I'd say, 40 to 50,000 intersections. So between us, let's say we're in 50,000 intersections because some of those overlap. The United States has about 330, anywhere between 330 and 380,000 signalized intersections, right? So our goal is to become trusted partners of all those municipalities, whether they're large agencies or small agencies. And to continue to help improve mobility through the city. So my segment of the business is about signalized intersections and roadways. The other part of Cubic's business is they do urban revenue management for megacities transit systems. And then we also have a platform at Cubic that is to manage transit systems for smaller mid-market cities. So if you go to New York or Chicago or San Francisco and you tap on, to ride a transit, that's a Cubic device and that's a Cubic back office. So, part of our vision as Cubic Transportation Systems is, linking all that together in a way to improve mobility for an entire city. So that's what our vision is.
Great, making it easier to get on public transit can help alleviate some of these congestion issues that we're experiencing in our community.
It is very different, I interact with people in some of the large cities, CTOs for transportation agencies. And, some of the people, it's so different for us. I grew up in Knoxville, I've never owned cars because they use transit for everything. And they rent a car when they want one, and you can't do that in Knoxville. Let's just be blunt, right? It's a very different scenario across most of America. So it's very interesting. Yeah.
Good deal. Jake from NS. Big
as a company, I mean, there are so many initiatives and things that we're focusing on. Can't cover it all, but we're constantly looking at different ways to implement technology into our business. Our operations group constantly looks at ways to improve our network and move freight more efficiently. So what it really boils down to is, we're driving hard to provide a safe, reliable, and efficient mode of transportation for our customer base. So, there's a lot of investment in our tracks and infrastructure to make that happen. And again, just everything from technology to how we operate trains, everything is being evaluated and looked at very closely to see how we can improve that and have a better product for our customers and the communities we serve. So we're excited about that. We're looking forward to what's next on the horizon for us, as some of these studies take shape and figure out how we can improve it. We're looking forward to a bright future and hopefully we're able to bring industry and growth to this area through our role in the supply chain and the investment that we're making.
Thank you. So from the chamber perspective, kind of what we're working on, just to give you guys a quick overview, there's a lot of talent attraction things we're doing, where we're doing talent retention programs, working in partnership with the University of Tennessee to help UT students understand that there are job opportunities in our community, who those companies are, what some of the quality of place assets that we all have in our community. There's a big push right now with our regional enhancement team in terms of helping companies find that access to capital where can they find funding for startups or angel investment or venture capital. So a lot of work going on in those areas. And then from the economic development perspective, we're continuing to kind of turn the volume up on our existing business outreach and making a strong effort to find those linkages from one company to another in town or connecting the right people. So chambers are good at connecting dots. And so I hope that you guys in your business, if you ever have a need, that you'll think to give us a call. Myself or anybody on my team will get you to the right person just as quickly as we can.